Hello, and welcome back to God the Artist podcast. I am Morgan McCarver, and I'm so glad you're here today. As promised, I want to read through God the Artist, the book, as an audiobook. So my idea is that we read through this chapter by chapter, week by week. I'm hoping that each episode will be published on Fridays for the audiobook part of this. And I have never recorded an audiobook before, so please be patient with me. But to set the mood, I've got some chai tea made in a mug that a student gave me actually probably about maybe 7 years ago now. So thank you, Sarah. Again, I still use it all the time. And then also I have this beeswax candle here that has been lit. One of the Christian traditions that I really love is lighting a candle to symbolize the presence of God. And so it's not about when the candle's out, God's not there, because we know God is always present with us. It's more about lighting the candle to symbolize his presence, especially during meditation or prayer, reflection. So just to have that symbolism here that God is with us, I've got that beeswax candle lit, and I have God the Artist, the book, here with me as well. The crazy thing is this came out in 2024, and I actually never really read through it in its final form. I get kind of self-conscious about things like this, and about the podcast as well, so I don't always participate in my own work as a consumer like people might think that I do, but we are going to read through this together. So my goal is that I'm a reader and a participant and a consumer alongside you, because I haven't really focused on these words since I wrote them and then spoke about them. So I had written these words several years ago. I still focus on the same ideas, but I don't just read through my same book every day. Reading through this for the first time in physical bound book form is going to be really exciting. One thing about Morgan James Publishing is they are really awesome. Even though they're a traditional publishing company, they still allowed me to have a lot of freedom in my design, including the book cover. So I designed the entire cover. The picture is taken by me. The color was chosen by me. I did all of the photography and the little drawings of flowers. Those are actually my copyrighted designs that I drew on my pottery. So it's really special to me that they let me add these things to my own book to really make it as personal as possible. So without further ado, here is God the Artist. We'll start with the dedication. God the Artist, revealing God's creative side through pottery. This book is solely dedicated to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is the only reason it exists. Thank you for every experience, good and bad, that allowed me to have material for writing this book. Thank you for guiding me on my own creative journeys and for allowing me to honor you by writing about some of them here. Please let me reflect your glory and allow readers to see your beauty and creativity as the ultimate artist you are. And then the book is broken into 3 parts. The first part is recognizing creativity and really focusing on what that is. Part 2 is specifically relating that creativity to clay. And then the third part is honoring God with our creativity. So today we're just going to read the introduction in chapter 1. And then we'll come back for the following chapters in the next, looks like about 15 weeks, since there's 15 chapters. So, the introduction. It is wonderful that you're here. I am honored to welcome you. So many things had to align for this exact moment, and by the grace of God, they have. This project has taken years to culminate in the finished product, but God put the desire to write a book on my heart even years before. I remember loving reading and writing growing up. As I got older, I was more drawn to, and still am, reading nonfiction. It was amazing to me that someone else's ordinary life could be worthy of recording and reading. I remember keeping a diary as a young girl, and those entries are quite boring and uneventful, but I still had a desire for record keeping and a hope that my story would one day be important enough to share. God didn't give me the desire to seriously consider writing this book until I graduated college, but He has been preparing me for writing my story for years. I know this book was in His plan for my life before I was ever born. He is that powerful. After it became apparent that the 3 years of wearing my scoliosis corrective back brace were not enough to straighten my spine, I remember begging God to spare me from the corrective surgery. I distinctly remember His response. This is the first time I remember a clear response from God. He told me that my story would not be complete without the surgery. Even though that was a physically and mentally challenging time that required me to work through healing for years, I now agree with God. My surgery recovery time gave me my first experience in a pottery studio. Without my surgery, my love for ceramics might never have been discovered, meaning this book would not exist. I am the person I am today because of that surgery. The circumstance that I thought at the time was the worst possible thing in my life is the catalyst that springboarded my entire life. God led me through every step, and through the surgery, I grew closer to Him. I felt God calling me to record the rough skeleton of the book when I graduated with a ceramics degree. Through several passages in the Bible, I began to recognize pottery symbolism and decided that I should record it so I wouldn't forget. I then tried to find a book to read that would simply compare the Bible verses about clay with actual examples in pottery. Not finding a book I wanted to read propelled me into writing one. As I began writing down the pottery symbolism, I quickly realized, having not read the Bible all the way through, that there could be clay references I was missing on and didn't even know it. This is the point where I decided to buy a copy of the Bible that would engage me in reading, the ESV Archaeological Study Bible, and began reading cover to cover. My only reading plan was to finish the entire Bible, side notes and all. Ever the impatient one, I finished the manuscript before I finished the Bible, or at least I thought I did. I was rejected by multiple publishers, but was told I could pay a good bit of money to self-publish if I wanted, but I'd also need hefty editing. At this point, I asked God and knew that He told me I needed to wait and revisit this idea when I had more experience. I honestly thought that meant a couple of decades. Turns out it was 3 years. In that span of time, I had a job working sales and support side of ceramics, taught classes in the evenings, experienced a global pandemic, moved to another state to become a pottery apprentice for over a year, and launched my own business and studio practice. I also finished reading the Bible all the way through. It took me 3 years to read at my own pace, but by the grace of God, I finished. As soon as I finished reading, God gave me 3 more goals: to find a place to serve in my new home church, to actually publish the book, and to go to the Holy Land. I began serving as a youth leader to a precious group of young ladies. I then began editing the manuscript I had begun 4 years prior and realized it needed to be rewritten. During cold January days in the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina, I rewrote the entire book in about 2 weeks. At that point, I began looking once again for a publisher. Terry Whalen with Morgan James Publishing has been absolutely amazing throughout the entire process. He told me first that I'd need to about double my word count for a book like this to even be considered. A week and a half later, I submitted that lengthened manuscript and gave it all to God. This has been the first experience in my life where I completely gave the whole process to God. Of course, there have been days of worry and stress, but God is the one who initiated this desire, so I knew it would only happen if it was in His will. Praise God, it was. Getting the publisher's acceptance letter was surreal, and every experience since then has been truly fascinating. Now I guess I'll have to work on getting to the Holy Land. I hope this book makes you think. Of course, I hope to teach non-potters about ceramics and the non-Christians about the love of Jesus. But what I want for you to get most importantly from this book is that the God-given gift of creativity is within every one of us to use for our joy and for His glory. I hope you get messy. I hope you acquire a hoard of new art supplies. I hope you shine your light and begin recording your own story in your own way. Let this be a guide to you to help you grow spiritually and creatively. But please remember, I'm only human. I make mistakes. The true path can be found by following Jesus and recording and reading his word. My mere musings are not a rule book, simply a prompt. Let the creativity challenges at the end of each chapter be the creative boost you have been looking for. I pray that your relationship with God will grow and change as you see him in a new light within these pages. Blessings, Morgan. All right, so I'm going to start on chapter 1. So each chapter starts with Bible verses, and then the Bible verses relate to the subjects in the chapter. So I'm going to read the Bible verses first, and then I'll read the chapter. This is Exodus 31, 1 through 5. The Lord said to Moses, "See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with ability and intelligence, with knowledge and all craftsmanship, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold, silver, and bronze, in cutting stones for setting, and in carving wood, to work in every craft." Exodus 35, 34, and 35. And he has inspired him to teach, both him and Aholiab, the son of Ahishmach of the tribe of Dan. He has filled them with skill to do every sort of work done by an engraver or by a designer, or by an embroiderer in blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen, or by a weaver, by any sort of workman or skilled designer. And Moses called, this is Exodus 36, 2 through 3. And Moses called Bezaleel and Aholiab and every craftsman in whose mind the Lord had put skill, everyone whose heart had stirred him up to come and do the work. And they received from Moses all the contribution that the people of Israel had brought for doing the work on the sanctuary. They still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning. So now we'll begin chapter 1. Have you ever been so excited to work on a new creative project that it completely consumes your thoughts until you give yourself the time to work on it? You're going about your daily life, getting groceries, doing laundry, going to work, but in the midst of all that, you are mulling over this grand project, which you are just bursting at the seams to start. I'll be driving down the road, but my mind is calculating what supplies I'll need and how much time each step in the creative process will take. That's probably not the safest example I could have given you, but hey, I'm a little art obsessed. Some of my earliest memories are learning to sew with my grandmothers and making little farm animals out of homemade dough. At this point, you might have guessed, and you'd be right, that thankfully my family supported and encouraged my creative interests. I believe every human being has the capacity to be creative. I can make this statement because the Bible tells me this is true. It tells us multiple times in multiple ways throughout the Old and New Testaments that human beings are creative. That's the reason in God the Artist, we will study verses throughout Scripture that will point back to the creativity God granted us. One amazing story that doesn't get a lot of pulpit time is the story of Bezaleel. God specifically gives Bezaleel the ability to create beautiful things for his temple and tells Moses of these talents that he has given Bezaleel the ability to work in every craft. Exodus 31, 1 through 5. I would love that God-given ability. God informs Moses that he has given Bezaleel this power to make all things that will be used by Aaron for his priestly duties. God gives creative ability to be used to glorify himself. When it is time for Moses to lead people to construct the tabernacle, Bezaleel is ready and waiting. What's even more beautiful is that Bezaleel didn't keep his God-given talent to himself. He didn't demand all the glory and recognition. Moses tells the people that God has put the desire to teach into Bezaleel, and he says that Bezaleel isn't alone. God has also called Aholiab, the son of Ahismach, in the tribe of Dan, Exodus 35, 34b. Together, these two will teach the rest of the Israelites to build the tabernacle. In the next chapter, we see Bezaleel and Aholiab leading the other skilled workers. We know that they are talented craftspeople because the Bible tells us that these were craftsmen in whose mind the Lord had put skill. Everyone whose heart stirred him up come to do the work. Exodus 36:2. Not only did God give them the divine hearts to perform the skills needed for building the tabernacle, but he also stirred their hearts with a desire to do the work. God provides everything we need. In this crazy world, it is nice to know that God has a plan and he is willing to share it with us. Think back to your answer to the first question I asked you. Have you ever been so excited to work on a new creative project that it completely consumes your thoughts until you give yourself the free time to work on it? What if that desire is coming from God? What if the thing you think is just a fun side project is actually something God has given you the desire for and is asking you to honor him through? If God was calling me to help design and construct the tabernacle, I wouldn't just give him my scrunched up spare minutes at the end of each day. I would wake up early, excited to work on what he called me to do, because there is so much joy found in living out one's purpose. I would take my time with each detail because I would want it to be good enough for him. The finished result would be something I am proud of. Now, don't panic. This book is not recommending that you quit your day job and become a full-time builder of tabernacles. My goal is to reveal all the beautifully hidden symbols of God's love through creativity and art making. I want you to truly see just how special the creativity God gave you really is. Stop taking your creativity for granted, or even worse, forgetting it altogether. You are a child of God. He has given you not only the right to be creative, but also the capacity for genuine creativity. I want to guide you on this creative journey to see how our creativity is spiritually rooted in God. It is a God-given skill that we can all use to praise and glorify him. The purpose of this book is to show the creativity of God and reveal that he has instilled that same imagination inside you too. We have the freedom to create in a world that God created because he loves us enough to give us the free will and imagination to create. You might be shaking your head as you read this, saying, I'm not very good at the artsy stuff. If you could see my Pinterest fails that are now adding to the landfill, you'd see that I'm not creative. Loved one, hear me when I say this truthfully. The fact that you attempted a creative project proves that you're creative. I don't claim that we are all art geniuses, and I agree that some of us are more talented in different areas than others. But we have all been made creative. God designed each one of us to be creative. There's a reason you chose to pick up and read this book, which is a good indicator that you may know in what ways you are creative. Creativity can come in many forms. Of course, painting and drawing, good solid art forms, are probably the first things that come to mind. Creativity is actually a very broad and all-encompassing term, but to fully understand the definition of creativity, we must first look at its root word. The Merriam-Webster definition of the word create is to bring into existence, to produce or bring about by a course of action or behavior, to produce through imaginative skill, design, and to make or bring into existence something new. Yes, creativity most definitely means art forms like dance, music, theater, and writing. It also includes the visual arts like painting, drawing, photography, pottery, sewing, and needlework. This standard technical definition focuses on bringing things into existence that didn't yet exist in the world. This might be thinking up new ideas, making new designs, cooking a meal you whipped up from scratch, devising a strategy, braiding your hair differently, redecorating your living area, training a dog, color coding a calendar, trying a new workout, or making a new lesson plan. Each is just as creative as the last. Some of the more uniquely obscure ways of being creative include board game design, topiary pruning, writing elevator music, designing fabric prints, greeting card writing, and the list goes on. Of course, there are many more ways of being creative, but if I listed them all, that would be a whole other book. Think about the areas in your life where you are creative. These are most likely things that you enjoy doing. Do you enjoy baking bread, color coding your laundry, hosting a podcast, singing in the shower, rearranging furniture, upcycling clothing, pressing flowers, or choreographing a Zumba routine? How do you use your creativity for yourself, and how might you use it to glorify God? Children are perfect for this example. Give a toddler finger paint, chalk, or a box of crayons. What do you think will happen? Try to put yourself in that situation mentally as a child. Most likely, the little one will joyfully create with the tools given. The feel of the paint is different and exciting. Moving your entire body, you can fully express your energy with the chalk. You can run, holding the fat stick to the ground, watching a line form behind you. The crayon's waxy substance will be left behind on the paper if you push hard enough. Take all the paper off the colorful stick of wax, and now you can roll the entire crayon across the page with one hand. Are you remembering the childlike joys of creating? When the toddler is finished with her masterpiece, what does she do? Staying in this mindset, what would you do? Most likely the first thing would be to run and show whoever she is near. You want to show off the finished product that brought you so much joy in the experience. If it is something transportable, you would probably give it as a gift to your parent or guardian. Do you remember making cards for your family? You wanted them to know that you thought they were special enough to have a piece of your art. Of course you wanted the praise too. We all like to hear encouragement and reassurance, but that's not why we made the thing in the first place. No, we wanted to feel the joy and excitement of creating. Now think about a time when someone else's creativity blessed you. Have you ever seen a live play and been so enthralled in the story that you forgot the characters or actors? Has a mural on a wall downtown made you stop and smile? Has a song moved you to tears? Did a child give you one of her drawings? Does walking through an art museum make you feel calm and empowered at the same time? Have you made audible yum noises while eating a cupcake? Did a funny story make you involuntarily start smiling? The beauty in receiving someone else's creativity is that beauty and art aren't transferred like money. If someone makes you cake, they have found joy in the baking, but their joy is not lost once you receive their gift. Surprisingly, it is amplified. They come to us smiling, cake in hand. We can almost feel their joy, which makes us joyful. Then we are smiling. When we see the cake, we get even more excited, which makes them happy at our excitement with their creation, and the joy and positivity expand. When we give a gift, especially something we have made, we are blessing others, which makes us feel unintentionally good. This blesses the Father. One time when I was in middle school, I received a card from an anonymous student a few years younger than me. She had handwritten me a note just telling me that she looked up to me and hoped I was doing well. She had drawn some flowers at the bottom of the page. I don't think the note was more than a couple of sentences long. On the surface, it was only notebook paper and words written with a blue ballpoint pen, but it was one of the most beautiful gifts I'd ever received. It wasn't because it was masterfully created or poetically written. Honestly, if anyone else saw it, they probably wouldn't find it that special. But to me, it was extraordinary. To this day, I have no idea who the mystery note was from, but it brightened my day and still does now. I have kept it after all these years as a sweet reminder of what an ounce of kindness can do. Her note didn't say anything profound. It truly was the thought that counted. She cared enough to give me a note, and that still means the world to me. I know God gave her the creativity, inspiration, and courage to write and send it. We all have the ability and desire to be creative. I know you might doubt that, but hear me out. Every human being on planet Earth is in some way creative. How do I know? How can I make such a blanket statement about the entire world? I know every one of us is creative because God created us in His image. If we believe the Bible is true, then we must take all of it as truth. And in doing that, we must believe that God created each of us with the capacity for creativity. Why would He do this? Because every creative aspect reveals more of Him and points back to Himself. At the end of each chapter, you will be given a creativity challenge. These are purposefully designed to be vague. Creativity should not be forced. It flows out of you naturally in a beautiful way, honoring God. Each challenge can be completed in a variety of ways, so feel free to try a new artistic technique or play it safe with the stuff you know. But this would be a great time to find your creative ability by trying a new creative outlet each week. If you already have a passion, hone your craft by focusing your skill on that one medium. Please feel free to go as outside the box as you want with these challenges. If you feel comfortable, I would love to see your results. Send me pictures or videos. Here is Chapter 1, this week's Creativity Challenge. We are all creative and unique in different ways. Be a blessing to someone today with your creation. Since this is your first one, I'll give you some examples. Make muffins and share them with a neighbor or coworker. Call a sick or downcast friend and sing them a song. Tell a joke to your grocery store cashier. Make a card and send it to a veteran or someone living in a nursing home. Paint a rock and leave it for someone else to find. Help a friend organize her closet. Sew warm clothing for those in need. The options are endless. So go be a blessing to someone today with your creation. Blessings until next time. Bye.